Okay, I'm finally back on this radio. It took me way too long to get back to it. Unfortunately, things happened and I couldn't get, I just could not get back to this project because of everything else that was happening. And so it's been quite a while since I put part 2 up. I'm not entirely sure how much interest there will be in part 3 since it's been so long. But I hope that there will be some. Because in this video, we're going to talk about the tube I had to swap out, which involved rewiring the radio. Talk about repairing the tuning mechanism, and we'll also do a quick look at how I tried to repair the speaker. Unfortunately, not everything went the way I wanted to on that one, but I will talk about that and show you what I'm going to try to do to fix my mistakes. So, with that in mind, let's move forward. So this is the 1S5 right here. And the problem, and I've been told that the 1U5 is a better tube. That remains to be seen. Since I've changed this tube to 1U5, I have started this. I'm not sure it solved all my problems, but one of the problems I did have, pin 5, this schematic actually tells me what the voltage is supposed to be. One of the schematics was a lousy copy, and it tried to tell me that this was a 0.5 volts here. I knew that couldn't be right. This is a plate after all. My tube manual said it should have been, I think, 67.5. Which was, of course, more like what I was expecting, but this being a detector, audio frequency amp, that number could have been anything else, and of course here's what it is, 15 volts. So, what I was actually getting was more like 9 volts, and so I was really puzzled because pretty much everything else in here was good. The other thing that was kind of disturbing, and this doesn't tell you what it's supposed to be, but the voltage across the filament, which I believe is supposed to be, which I believe is filament, oh yeah, pins 1 and 7. I believe these are supposed to be 1.4 volt tube filaments. And on this tube, on the 1S5, I was getting 1.6 volts across the tube. Of course, that's controlled by the resistance of the filament. So that made me wonder about the health of this tube. Of course, I've tried 3 different 1S5s in here, and the results are pretty much the same. So, where I've gotten to at this point is I now have a 1U5 in here. I've turned it on. I've discovered that it does work. Seems like it's working a little bit better. I don't think it's fixed all my problems, unfortunately, but one thing I want to know, and then so to do the swap, these are not a 1-for-1 replacement. So what I did was, these are the where the plate and grids and all that for the 1U5 are, and these are where they are for the 1S5. And what I've done is I've indicated here which pins are going to have to be swapped, and then I just rewired it. And when I looked in the radio, and then I rewired it based on what I discovered here. And so let's see here. So the 1U5, pin 4 is the diode, and pin 3 is the grid. And of course you see here they're swapped. These two were swapped. And I think those were the only 2 pins, or only 4 pins that I had to deal with. So these 2 swapped, these 2 swapped. So now my plate is over here. I have to remember that. So now if I want to find out what the voltage is for my plate, which I do want to know what that is, I'm interested to see what the plate voltage is on this thing. I also want to know what the filament voltage is. So let's fire up my trusty voltmeter, which I guess you can't see. Let's see if we can zoom back out here, and There, let's see, move that a little bit closer in. Get out of all my wiring, it's entangling the poor thing. Alright, you stay there, behave yourself. There we go. Alright, so let's see here. We've got yeah, I think this is where I want to be. Yes. And at 1.4. So that's one change for the better. Okay. Now I want to know, and I'll go up here to ground and pin 2. Come on, you. 15 volts, that's right on the money. So, the 1U5 tube is behaving better than the 1S5. The voltages are healthier on this tube. 15 volts is right on the money, so it's supposed to be. The filament voltage is right on the money, like it's supposed to be. And let's see, and right now, this radio is being fed 117 volts, according to my meter over there. Let's check it at the radio and see. And I gotta figure out where we're. Okay, so this is one side here, and this is the other side, I think. Ooh, 123. Well, okay, that's a little bit high. Let's back you off a little, see what we're supposed to be here. Or see what we can get where it's supposed to be. Although I've seen voltage at the outlet be that high. 120. Alright, let's check you out now again. My isolation transformer can also boost voltage a little bit. Actually more than a little bit. So let's see here. So I do have to watch that because it can be problematic. So that's 1.3, 1.4, that's right around there. And let's see. Yeah, 15 volts. So I don't mind if filament voltage is slightly below, so 1.3 is fine. Let's see, just for fun, this one is 1.2 volts. Interesting. 1.1. These are a little bit low. I don't want to short that one out. Let's do here. 0.1. Interesting. What's my output tube? And that's going to be filament voltage on U. Is it 1 and 7? Well, let's find out. 2.6. That's interesting. They're all slightly low across the board. Interesting. And let's see, what should my plate voltage be on, let's see, plate, is it going to tell me plate? What's my plate? It's not going to tell me, I need another circuit diagram. Tell me what's plate and what's not. What did I do with you? That's the trouble when you, there's a long time between when you work, well, there's a long time between things when you've been working on things, and then, okay, so, alright, so pin 2 on the output tube is the plate, and so that says 90, so what do you have? That's 88 volts. There's a possibility my 200 is a little bit high. So I'm running the load resistor. This originally had a what was it, 160? Where are you? I believe it was. Well, I'm going to do something here we are, 160, 150 rather. 160 is what it measured. What it's supposed to be is a 150. So I'm 50 ohms above what the original was because I put a solid state diode in there to replace the selenium. Normally I expect to go 30 to 40 ohms higher than what the when you're replacing selenium, 30 to 40 ohms higher than the original, or 50 ohms higher. I don't mind filament voltages being slightly low, especially with these 1-volt tubes. So I may just leave it a little bit. Plate voltage, that's okay. So I think I'm going to probably leave it the way it is. As long as it works all right, I'm not going to get too nervous about that, I don't think. So I think at this point I'm going to call it fine. I'm thinking here. I think what I'm going to do next is off camera I'm going to run through the alignment because this is the detector tube, and I have a feeling that because I'm using a different tube and it is healthier, I'm just wondering how that's going to affect the alignment that I did when the N1S5 was in there. So I'm going to do that, and then when I come back I'll probably see how it behaves, and I may show you, depending on how it's behaving, I may show you that. And then I'm going to get into what I had to do to make the tuning mechanism behave itself. And then we'll look at my first attempt at replacing the speaker cone of the speaker that came with this by making my own speaker cone. I'll just tell you up front, there were some wins and not so good wins on that front. Hopefully you'll stick around for that. It's going to be a little while for me to do the alignment, but for you it's going to be a few seconds. Okay, I'm back. I did do some alignment adjustments on this, and they were off a little bit. One of the things I dealt with on this, well, first of all, the reception for AM in my area is pretty lousy. I can get one local station and one distant station relatively, so it's not exciting. So I'm not going to go over that right now. When I get this all put back in its case and everything's working the best that I can get it to work, I will then show you what it's doing at that point. But for now, we're going to move forward to the tuning part of this, the tuning mechanism part of this. But I want to mention something about this radio. This is an RF tube, and this first transformer is the RF transformer. Now, according to the information on this radio, this is supposed to be adjusted at the factory and it's supposed to be left alone. I wasn't sure if it had been or not. So I decided to check it. And it was off a little bit. It wasn't bad. I marked it so I could get back to the original settings, but I was able to improve it, the overall performance, so I'm leaving it where it is. And so the overall alignment plus this has been adjusted and maximized. So this is now doing the best it can for our area, which is not great, let me put it that way. So the next thing you're going to see is me talking about the tuning mechanism on this and how I got it to work better than it did when I got it. So that'll be the next thing you see. Okay, how this tuning works, this is a strap. Back out a little bit here. There's a strap that goes here, and the strap moves and the marker line stays stationary. And what it uses is a what originally looks like it was a short fat rubber band that went around a plastic hub. And of course It still feels a little bit rubbery, but it has shrunk and it has gotten harder than it should be. And there are clips. I've taken those off already. They're little spring clips that hold those on. So what I've got to do is there's a screw in here. Just zoom in here a little bit. Let's see here. Okay. Well, I don't know how much you can see, but there is a screw right there that I have to get to. And the only way I can get to that really without causing problems is by coming around to this side and using my spring hook. And there's a spring attached to the cable here, and I feel a little bit more comfortable doing this because I actually have a chart that shows me how to restring this if anything should go wrong. And the other thing I'm going to have to do in order to get to this is I'm probably going to have to actually let one side of this come off. And that's the part that kind of scares me, but alright, so now ew, it's not a screw, it's an Allen, isn't it? Yes, it looks like it's an Allen screw. Lovely. And back when this thing was assembled, you can actually see the hole through the rubber band where you would get through there. Now I have to find myself an Allen that will fit that. And I have to go hunt for my Allen screws, Allen wrenches. Okay, well this never happens. I pulled this is the first Allen I pulled out of my pouch of Allen wrenches, and it turns out to be the right one. So what I'm going to do is, oh that should, yes it is, okay. Oh, and they really made sure that thing was secure. But I guess it doesn't matter. Now, I did try putting electrical tape on this, and it kind of worked, but it didn't, oops, no, I don't look that way, but it didn't entirely. So this, yeah, this looks like this was just a rubber band. You can actually see the pattern in it. Whoops. I have to remember where my camera lens is. And so it looks like it was a specialized rubber band. So what I've decided to do, this is electrical tape, but it's rubber electrical tape. The vinyl stuff didn't have enough grip. And this is kind of interesting because you have to stretch it in order to get it to adhere. And one of the things I want to do, though, is to make sure, back here, and to make sure that this is sitting out enough so I can find it. I'm also going to mark just because. So that's where that needs to go. All right. I probably didn't need to mark the outsides, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of wraps of this stuff around this, because as you can imagine, finding a specialized, very short, very fat rubber band, well, that's not going to happen. I actually did look to see if there was anything close to that. And the answer to that is no. Now the only thing that I've run into is this isn't quite 3/4 of an inch, So I'm hoping what I can do, well, I'm hoping it just works, because I think I've got enough room. Yeah, I got room. Yes, I should be fine. So I'm hoping what I can do is, let's see here, is I'm going to start where the screw is. I'm going to stretch this around it, this little hub, I think. Alright, let's see here. Now, like I said, this is interesting stuff. It is rubbery. It's got a rubber texture to it, so it should have more grip strength. Oh, I forgot, you got to stretch it, and what that does is it actually shrinks the width of it, which actually will be just fine. If you don't stretch it at all, then the stuff doesn't adhere, so it has to be stretched, which is fine. And over time it sets up so that it's really one solid piece of material. And I think, well, let's see. Well, that's fatter than the original, but I wonder how thick this was originally. This kind of looks like it's probably as thick as the original material might have been, but that's just a huge guess on my part. Let me see here. Yeah. Do I want to do one more loop around? What would be the downside? Probably nothing, other than the fact that I've got more to cut through to get to that. Well, what the heck? What have I got to lose? I want to do this once. That's my thought on this. One time only. Alright, so I've got that, and so I'm going to, hopefully, so I'm hoping I can trim this right where I need it. I don't know where I am here. Back here. Oops. Alright. I keep forgetting about my camera. I get focused on what I'm doing, and I forget to check to see if the camera's showing what I want it to. Alright. So... Let's see if we can trim it this way. Actually, I'm going to go up a little bit more. No, come on. My goal is to get, because if you can look at the, yeah, of course you know what's going on. You have the starting point, and now if I let this go beyond the starting point, it's going to bump up, and I don't want it to bump up. So if by doing that, hopefully, that isn't a problem. So, now, okay, get out of my way. Alright. Now, so there are a couple of concerns I still have with this idea. I hope this doesn't turn gluey. So my goal is to have something that has some nice traction, but without sticking to everything, like the tape. And I guess the only way we're going to find out is by trying it. I said, this is about the only thing I could think of that would do this. Given the options that I've got, maybe this is the only thing I can do. Oh, come on. Let's go. I know one thing, this rubbery stuff is tough. It don't want to let go. Come on. Alright, let's go. Alright, so let's see if I can do this without slicing my fingertips. Mm-hmm. Starting to go. Alright, I think that'll work. Okay, so there's my screw sticking out. We're going to drive it back in. Get it ready to go. Alright. Now as far as I can see, this joint looks okay. And of course the tape is going to be coming around this, so if there's a little bit of a dent here, I don't think it's going to matter too much. I'm hopeful that that's the case. Alright, so well, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. Yes, there we are. Sort of, kind of. Let's go. Boy. It sure doesn't like to go where I want it to with it. Let me see, where's that dent? Right there. I don't think it really matters, but what the heck. Wow. Okay, so let's double check. It should be fine. Let's see. So my goal is to try to center this if I can. Try to get as close to center as I can be. And why are you not going? You know what? I think that looks good. Yep, I think it looks good. Alright, so tighten that little rascal up. And okay. While I'm doing this, I might as well just clean that up a little bit. Clean my knobbies up. While it's easy to do. So, sometimes when you're doing this kind of stuff, you gotta get creative. And sometimes your creativity works, and sometimes it doesn't. On my Panasonic radio, one of my previous videos, it took me 4 tries to find something that worked, to get my 8-track head to actually work. I learned some things along the way. Don't put lots of ferrous metal near your tape head. That's one of them. That thing did not like that at all. It was very unhappy. And I was concerned about that. But I thought, you know, maybe I'll get away with this. And the reality was, no, I didn't. So I'm really hoping that this works. It's got traction enough. It's got enough friction, I should say. The question is the tape going to stick to it? I'm hoping. The tape is a little bit dusty, and that would be a good thing. I'll do more cleaning on this later. Actually, I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway. So now that I've got this, so what I can do now, because I really didn't need to clean those now, because I can very easily take them off. You know, doing videos is a lot harder than I expected it to be, because you have to pay attention to what you're doing, what you're saying, and you've got to make sure that you pay attention enough that you don't make an idiot of yourself. Of course, that's where editing comes in. Alright, let's see here. Let's see. Okay. So, it's a lot easier to get off than get back on, I guess. So let's do this. Okay, there's that. Okay, so there's that. I think alright. Oh, yes. There's a bunch of these little pulleys that you've got to hit, and if you miss one of them, well, that's a problem. Let's see here. Come on, get up there. Let's see, so I've got that one in place, I've got that one, and. Now, there's another part of this which gets really interesting, because you really need to make sure that you have aligned the tape with alright, so okay, what I'm trying to do is hopefully start unlining this thing up. That tape is extremely sticky, which is actually not a bad thing, except for the fact that alright, well, let's see where we're at here. Yes, there's my other spring hook. So, fun part of this is, yeah, I want that way. Now, as I recall, it was the second hole in the back there. Yes. Fun. Come on, let's go. Or not. Then let's do... don't want those. Alright, be that way. Fine. Right, so what I've got to make sure is that the open end of this is aimed that way. Of course, it's kind of dictated by the back end, which has to be the same way. Come on. I think. Do I have you in there? I think I do. Now, so I have to slide that in between and bring this up, and then see what we have. All right. Let's put this on here for a moment. Okay. Now, so line's up there. Not quite. Let me see here. So let's see. So it needs to go that way. What's happening is my tape is going too far this way and not far enough that way. So it's got to move. It's got to move a bit. So let's see. How can I do that? Let me think. So I want the tape to go that way, which means what? I think if I rotate, all right. Well, let's see here. All right. So I want this to be more like. All right. So if I line this up with the edge of that line, and I want it to go that way a little bit. So if I go there and go to the other side of it, maybe I'll have it. As you can see, this is not a whole lot of fun. All right. Now, let's see. Let me see. So, if I do this, maybe. Well, that's my first try. We'll see how close that comes to where I want it. And if that doesn't work, then I know which way to go, I think. No. Well, one problem is I'm tired, and that doesn't work well when you're trying to do something like this. You have to think. All right, let's go. No. All right, maybe. And that went in the right direction. Ooh, am I close? That's looking very promising. Yes, it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but I don't know if you can see through this or not. But it's a whole lot closer than I started out with. I think I got it. I do believe. And now, yes. Now it seems to be consistently moving. You can't see this. Now it seems to be moving very consistently. Now, when I get to the end, if I don't stop, I can make it slip. But I think, yes, I think this is working perfectly. Yahoo! Finally. Okay. That was not as horrible as I thought it might be. So, do I have the label for this? Just so if somebody wants to know, this is called rubber splicing tape. It was just under $4 for this roll of tape. And if it works, it's worth what I paid for it. If it continues to work, and it looks like it's going to behave itself and not get stuck to the tape. But it seems to have enough traction that that is going to do the job. The other thing I did on this, I want you to notice that this is not moving very much. Before, when I would try to tune the radio, this whole thing would rock. Of course, it made it very difficult to do any precise tuning because, well, you don't want your knob to move 1/8 of an inch before it does anything, which is what was happening. So that also turned out to be fairly simple. There are three screws under here, and you'll notice I have a washer. All three of these have washers I put in place underneath. Because what this is, this isn't just a washer, it's actually got a stem that goes in and it actually hits the bottom of the tuning capacitor. Of course, the problem is that now the grommets, these rubber grommets, still feel good. They feel like they're still fairly soft, but they've aged and shrunk a little bit. So they need just a little bit of help. So 3 washers, and it did the trick, because I was just when I was just tuning it a few minutes ago, it behaved the way you want a radio to behave when you're tuning it. You really don't want it to think a minute as you're turning the tuning dial. Wait a minute, not fun. Okay, there's been a change of plan. I was going to put my speaker repair in this video, but it was already becoming too long. Plus, I've decided I want to see what I can do to fix my problems with this speaker. And I made 2 major mistakes. Number 1, the edge of the cone sticks up too far. And without really thinking it through, to compensate for the fact that the cone sticks up too much, I didn't allow the surround to loop up as much so that it wouldn't hit beyond the edge of the speaker. The end result is this radio cannot drive this speaker. If I connect it to my modern amp, it'll drive the speaker just fine. If I try to connect it up to this radio, the radio doesn't like it and starts distorting, because I have to crank the volume up too high in order to get this to reach a normal volume, and the little amplifier tube in that radio just is not going to, it just doesn't have the power. So what I'm going to do, and then I'll just create a separate video for this, for anyone who might be interested in this, how I went from, there basically was no speaker cone in this speaker, and this part was also pretty much in pieces. So I managed to recover it. The speaker works, and actually it's a very nice sounding speaker, but what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut this surround off and break it loose from the frame. I'm going to have to cut back the edge of the cone and then put a new surround on it, and this time make sure the lip of the surround goes up high enough so that the speaker can drive properly. And I don't know, I didn't try to, right now I'm hooking the speaker up the way it's supposed to be, because you see they have a ground wire, and that's showing you where the negative side of the speaker is. If I were to reverse how this is hooked up, and the speaker would be driving most of the time inward rather than outward, it might work better, but that's not the right way for the speaker to work. So, given what's involved with completing the video and getting the speaker hopefully working a lot better than it is now, I've decided to leave it out of my the video, and I've also assembled this radio with another speaker that I had. It's not something I wanted to do, but at least I still have the speaker and I can play with it, experiment with it, and then see if I can get it to work well enough so that these lower powered amplifiers and these little radios can actually drive this speaker. But right now, I think the problem is that, well, you've got two things. This is a harder, the cone is made out of a thicker material than what it originally was. So that might affect the volume of the speaker. But I think the big deal is that this surround is just too tight, and in order for the speaker to drive outward, it's got to have a more powerful amp. So unfortunately, it will not work with that radio. It just won't. So those are the two big mistakes I made for this. But what I am encouraged about is that I can probably do this in the future, just keeping in mind these two big mistakes I made. There's also something else, and I don't know if you probably can't see it. This is where the seam is, where I put the cone together. And you notice a dip right here. Well, I used white glue, regular Elmer's glue, to glue this together. Elmer's glue has water in it, and it tends to affect paper. And what happened is that this paper actually did get wet from the Elmer's, and it actually sagged here, unfortunately. I can't fix that now, but I have a special glue that I use to secure this round to the frame. I'll be using that in the future for the cone. And that hopefully that will avoid this sagging problem. Hopefully it'll be much more of a cone than instead of an oval. That was the other problem I ran into. I had to kind of adjust the position of the cone to make sure that the cone itself wasn't banging against the frame. Of course, when wired correctly, the speakers can be driving outward, so it wasn't as much of an issue as I was trying to make it, I guess. So I probably could have made the cone a bit flatter too. That's probably my third mistake. So this is going back on my project list. Right now I'm busy, and I probably won't be able to do much more at the moment. So that's another reason for not including this, because I just probably won't be able to get to this anytime soon. So I have my radio together. It is working. I don't know what station this is, but it's around 990. This area is not good for AM reception. So we're going to go to the other station, well, one of the other stations. Where are you? There it is.
Keeping alcohol suspended after recent unruly behavior by passengers.
Both American and Southwest Airlines say they will be flying dry flights for the time being, following an incident on a Southwest flight where a belligerent passenger...
So that's 810. That's in Albany, which is about 40 or so miles from us. And then this is our local station, which, well, it is what it is.
Without your generous support, Moose in the Morning and Moose Tracks would never have been, as I am a ham bone.
So, this radio is working. Finally, I'm happy with it. I mean, you can see the case on this thing is actually pretty decent. I mean, there are issues. I don't know if you can see. This has been dented. It was caved in a little bit. I tried to do what I could to straighten it out. There's not much you can do with that. But overall, this, let me see if I can zoom out. I don't know if I'm zoomed in there out. Where am I? No, I'm not. Let's move my camera back. All right, and bring you up. All right, so this thing is in actually pretty decent shape considering the condition it was in when I found it. It did not look like this. I think this was a painting radio. No other way to put it. I think they probably had this playing when they were painting, whatever they were painting in the house, because there were different colors of paint on this thing, here and there and everywhere. So I had to clean all of that off, and of course it was kind of, it was filthy, it didn't have much of a shine to it. The aluminum was corroded, so that needed to be polished. But there it is. It's all together. And I better turn this off or I will get nailed with a copyright strike. Although, given that I was talking through it, maybe not. But anyway, we're going to shut that off for now. So at this point, what I am going to do is I'm going to run it, life test it, as it were. I think that's it. The other thing that I don't know if I mentioned this before, and it does not seem to be causing a problem. That 1U5 tube was sounding somewhat microphonic after I went through all the trouble of replacing it. But I haven't noticed any major problems with it interfering with the sound. I will play it more. I will maybe crank the volume a little bit more, see if I can hear any distortion being caused by that. But what little I've played it, once I put it all back together, I didn't hear anything. So, like I said, I'm pretty much done. Okay, so there were some final pieces that I had to deal with this. I said I was calling it done. I am. Here's something interesting. When you're dealing with old radios that, well, people take them apart, parts get lost, you have fun times trying to find the replacements. And one of the things they lost were these two screws. Actually, one of them was here, and it was a Phillips head, and it was a tapered head. I couldn't find one to replace it, but these are screws that these are the same types of screw that go into, or that hold the cover plate on an outlet. And they had paint on them, but they had the right thread, and they were tapered on the back side, and the top looked nice. So I simply polished off the, you can't even see this, I simply polished off the paint, and I polished off the paint, and then I used some 2000 grit sandpaper to kind of give it a little bit of a shine. And that worked perfectly. So you improvise, you make do. So pretty much though, I can't think of anything else I really need to do to this. And like I said, I'm going to wrap this up at this point. Thank you all for watching to this point. If you have, thank you very much. And hopefully I'll see you on the next video.